Good afternoon, good evening to all our friends in Europe and Asia. Good morning, Pete, to you in New York, me in near Chicago. We're going around the globe today, and we're back for another discussion with our friends from Clear-Com, talking a little more on both Helixnet and LQ. Those products are obviously becoming a standard in our industry. IP based is such a big topic right now, and I think what we'll do, Pete, why don't you kind of set us up here? I'll say right now, I've got some handouts prepared, and then in a bit I will be putting a Dropbox link into our chat window here that'll go to everybody that's online. But why don't you kind of talk us through Q&A, and then we'll get right to moving on this.
Terrific. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our self-imposed stay-at-home, which has turned out to be way more work than not staying at home. On your browser there on the right-hand side, there should be a pull-down section that says questions. You can pull that down and you can type in questions. If you have an option to send a private question or a public question, definitely send it as a public, which would allow everybody to hear. And we're not sharing those questions necessarily. We will see them all, even if you send them as private. And those questions which relate to what Ram is working on will pass on to them. So I'll try to answer any other questions you may have just directly right in the question screen. So Ram, you want to join us? Ram, hello.
Yeah, I'm coming.
I'm coming.
There we go. There we go. Hi. Hello, everybody.
Hey, good to see you.
It's good to be visible. Okay. I hope everybody's staying healthy and, keeping your interests up. This is a great time to spend with us, and we appreciate your tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about Helixnet and LQ and Agent IC. If you don't have it yet, I strongly recommend everybody go and download the Agent IC demo. What you would do once you get that would be to, well, there it is. It's there on your phone, and it's fun to use. And the demo, you can talk to each other on the demo. It won't hook up to your system unless you get the clients for it, but it's a kind of interesting tool, and more and more people are using it. And
Ram, I just wanted to add something. Also, there is a section called Handouts on your screen, which has the LQ setup doc. Did that have your demo setup logons in it?
The LQ setup will show well, the Agent IC, when you download the app from wherever you get your apps, it comes with 4 profiles on the very top, and we'll talk about it later. And it defaults right to the demo, so you can right out of the box play with it immediately. So that's kind of a cool thing.
These handouts will be included along with the video and all the questions when we post it to our website, which happens about 24 hours after the end of the show. Go for it. Go for it, Ram.
And also there'll be a link to, I have a couple of folders, one I call Tips and one I call Pinout City. And those are both really helpful. There's a wealth of stuff in there. And I should also say, and we'll probably talk about it a couple of times, on the Clear-Com website, in the support dropdown, and we'll show you where that is, there's something called Solution Finder, and you can type in any question relevant to not only intercoms, but interconnectivity between our platforms and other platforms, and other manufacturers of comms even. So, when you're out there trying to hook something up and you are looking for, you have a question about how that's done, the Solution Finder is great. And you also will see Sook-Fong's and my email addresses, and you're always welcome to contact us, and we're happy to help anytime. All right, so let me start showing what's going on here. Today we're going to start talking about Helixnet, and right now the current version of the software is version 4, and let me make sure I got this going up, and there we go. Okay, so Helixnet is a digital party line system. Now, everybody remembers the old trusty 2-wire system, whether it's Clear-Coms or RTS or AudioCom. Several others are out there. Each channel would require a separate line. And in Clear-Com world, we typically only put one channel on a belt pack. Now, we do have schemes to put more than one channel that emulate the RTS scheme, but the simplest systems have each of the 4 channels, let's say, that are on this master station. There would be an XLR on the back, and you would plug a mic cable in and then plug a belt pack or another device into it, and it would be on that channel only. Or if it's a 2-channel, those 2 channels only. So that's a lot of wiring. In the Helixnet, it's a networked digital party line system, so that one cable now carries all 12 of the channels that come out of the box on the base station, plus a program audio source, which is totally discrete and mixable at each endpoint. When I say endpoint, of course, I'm talking about a belt pack or a remote station or a wall station. In this case, you see there, the wall station is put in something we call an S-mount, which is a little box that you can throw on a desk to have a little throwdown biscuit. Now, we can connect to them in a couple of different ways, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. You should also know that the Helixnet master station, you can, or not you, but whoever owns the system can buy a passcode that will unlock another 12 channels for a total of 24 channels. So it's a very versatile system. It's really hard to use all 12 channels. We get there. Certainly 24 channels is a lot, but I like to use spare channels as little private party lines, so they sort of emulate a point-to-point system. In the Helixnet product, unlike some other products like Matrixes or the FreeSpeak, you cannot have a physical point-to-point between any 2 endpoints, but you certainly have some extra channels there that you can use as little private party lines and work that out. There are a couple of names that we want to talk about that we don't see very often that are associated with the Helixnet product. The first is what we call a key set. A key set, as you see here, is the OLED display, the call signal, the talk signal, and the volume control. And on a belt pack, a belt pack being a 2-channel belt pack in the Helixnet world, you see 2 OLED displays and 2 sets of talk and call. And of course, there are rotary encoders for each of those 2 channels. So when you're programming a device, you program a key set. So that's what we call it. And I just want to make sure everybody has that naming down. Another thing that we started out with in Helixnet, and now of course we're doing it with FreeSpeak 2 and some other products, it's a role. Think of a role as a little bucket into which you can program an endpoint. Now, I know we've done, and some of you have been there at our FreeSpeak 2 webinar. In FreeSpeak 2, each role can only go to an individual endpoint. Once that role is taken by an endpoint, that role is no longer available to other devices. However, in Helixnet, because of the nature of the digital party line system, we can assign the same role to several different endpoints. For example, let's say I make a follow spot operator role. I call it spots. And I can assign, or a belt pack can take itself, because they can be their own source assignment panel. The same role to several endpoints. So let's say all the follow spot operators will have the production channel over the lighting channel. So they all have that, and if I go into the GUI to program that role differently, let's say they now want to be on the tech channel and the lighting channel, as soon as I make that change in the software, or I can do it from the front panel also, all those roles at the endpoints will change to what I've programmed. So one thing that I like to do when I'm programming systems, and many of you have had the same experience, is to make a lead follow spot role and then spot roles. So I give all the follow spot operators a role that is suitable for their workflow, but I will make it the same for the lead role. However, I have the ability to change the lead follow spot discretely from all the others. So occasionally the lead follow spot may want to be able to talk to the lighting director, or on one of those, as I said before, one of those private party lines to some other endpoint. And if I change only the lead, then the other follow spot operators are going to be able to stay on what they're used to having, and they're not going to be affected. But again, we don't have to have a separate role for each endpoint like we have to have in FreeSpeak 2. Powerline is actually, it's an old technology that we kind of revived. You know, just like Charlie Button, when he first invented the two-wire party line belt pack, was using Alexander Graham Bell's invention. We're using this is a like World War II technology, the Powerline. If some of us can remember back in the dinosaur days, when before we all had wireless routers in our house, if you had a computer in your office at home, but you also wanted to have, let's say, another computer connected on that network in the den, you had to run a piece of Cat5 cable from your router all the way into the den, and that can be arduous. You know, nobody likes to trip on cables on the floor at home, or you had to open up walls or whatever. What the Powerline modem would do is that there's a little box, and you can still buy these today at at your electronic store outlets. It plugs into the Edison connector, the wall electrical connector in one room. Let's say the room that your office is in that has the modem and the router. And you plug one of the sockets from the router into this little box that you've plugged into an electrical outlet. And then along the Romex cable that is in the walls of your house, that data then travels through on that cable. It's muxed onto the cable. And in the den where you want to have your other computer, you plug in another one of these boxes. It dries out the electricity and just keeps the data, and you plug a Cat5 cable into that, plug it into the computer or whatever device you need to have on your network, and there you go. We're using this technology so that you can take a standard XLR cable, and of course, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit later too, but you don't want to use Canary Star Quad or AES cable. It's very high in capacitance. But regular microphone cable, you can plug that into the power line on the master station, the Helixnet master station, and plug devices into that, and you'd be network connected. Since in recent versions of the Helixnet, we've also added network connectivity, and our latest belt pack actually can connect with a Cat5 cable to a PoE switch, and again, we'll talk about that later. But the Powerline is an important component in Helixnet. And again, we're going to talk about some Powerline budgets in a bit. The last thing on this page, the Core Configuration Manager, the CCM. That's the graphical user interface, or GUI, that we use to control and administrate the entire system. Now, you can do everything from the front panel, and a lot of people just are doing that, and they're happy to do that. But we all find that using the GUI is much easier to play with. Pete, you have something you want to say?
Yeah, back on the kind of cable, Nathaniel Marsh from Paris is asking, is microphone cable better than AES cable for Powerline?
Yes, AES cable has a lot of capacitance in it. Now, there's another comms company called Riedel, which also makes a digital system, and they actually spec that cable for their system. However, for ours, we don't. We discourage use of that cable because the power scheme here won't travel as far on that cable because of the resistance within the cable. So yeah, that's a good question. Now, let's see, where did I go? Did I pause my screen? Let's see, what have I done here? Let me get back to this slideshow. There we go. Okay. So, well, we'll talk about the CCM in a bit. Let's look at the main station and its components and what works. So on the top here, we're seeing the front panel of the Helixnet master station. And as we spoke the other day in the free speak session, the rack ears are actually separate from the front plate of the master station. We do that so that if you accidentally drop the master station, and it does happen, these will actually break off but preserve and not affect the actual front plate. So it saves you quite a bit in repair costs, and the rack ears are easy and inexpensive to replace. Normally we sell the master station with a 4-pin male XLR, which is the sort of legacy standard for Clear-Com headsets. This is the headset jack here. However, you can specify when you buy these to have a 5-pin female or a 7-pin, which we use in some military applications, so that they use logic to play around to key radios and stuff like that. But generally, in the world we live in, we're going to look at that 4-pin or 5-pin. Those are the two we see. Okay, I want to take a look at the questions here. So Nathaniel, just one question about the plan. Do you plan to do offline software or not? We have a lot who need that. Yeah, that's something we would really love to see, Nathaniel, but that's not something we're going to see anytime soon, unfortunately. I've got no good answer to that one, and I apologize. Matt is asking, he's an LQ user in Taiwan. He's got 4 of the 4-wire 2 and 4. Oh, this is an LQ product, okay. But I only have 2 Agent IC licenses. My question is why the license of Agent IC is only bound to the hardware and can't be bound to an account. It's HANA, like Dante, or some Wave plugin license. In this way, our users cannot replace the Agent IC license between different hardware. If the machine fails, the Agent IC can. That's a great question, Matt. And as of right now, Matt, that's the way this system works. And but I'll bring your concern up to our product managers and see if we can find some way to make the licenses a little bit more portable. I know I can tell you that there is talk amongst our engineers and product managers to have a little bit more ephemeral licenses. By that I mean you can buy a license for a week or a month or a year, instead of perpetuity being locked on a device. So that's not exactly what you're looking for, but that is something that is in the works and might be closer to what you're looking for than what is available present. Renjan, what's the maximum number of roles you can have? Well, you can have, I believe, 99 roles. I think that's our limit. I'm not 100% sure, but you can certainly have more roles programmed on your system than you have the ability to have endpoints on that system. And we'll talk about that last piece of my answer in just a little bit. Pete is asking, can the headset's 5 pins be 2-channel with separate listens? And the answer is yes. And we'll show you that when we look at the belt pack. On the new belt packs, there's a little, on the front of them, there's a little up and down arrow. And when you play with those and a function key, when you can use those to make your choice between the two, or of course you can go into the menu and go from one side to the other. And there's a little slider, so it's sort of like a panoramic potentiometer of sorts. So you can put things hard left, or just, you know, just like you can with a pan pod, you can move it around in the stereo field. And Matt is also asking here, the Helixnet main station and remote panel that I bought last year has a problem with the microphone socket. It's easy to break. I don't know if this part is related to me. Yes, this is a big concern of ours right now. We've had a lot of discussions about this.
It's been sorted. I mean, as of about 2 weeks ago, whatever that comes out from the new production has been sorted. So whatever that is was previously out, I've told the local partner engineer to assist.
That's correct. And so, Matt, you know, you said you bought it last year. Well, our warranties have free repair for 2 years. So what I would suggest is you get that main station in for repair, and make a note when you send it in that they put the new fix. There's a flange on the back that screws in with a special tool that they've retooled the way that goes on so that it locks in place and won't spin around, as we see on some of these products.
Well, I think that's on the V series. On the Helixnet, it's just extra torque or something. But we'll look at that offline.
Okay, all right. In any event, Matt, your product's still under warranty, so take advantage of that before that expires. Because after 2 years, then you have to pay for repairs, and you don't want to have to do that. All right. So, getting back to a little PowerPoint here, which I will do as soon as I can call it up, because I'm not real fast with these button pushes. Part of the old guy syndrome. So we talked about the headset connector. Up here, this is the microphone connector. It's a 3-pin DIN. Some of the older products actually have a 5-pin DIN, but if you look at it, those three, the hard left, hard right, and top middle, are only those three have metal contacts inside. And the 110 microphone slips in there, and you kind of wiggle it and twist it, and it screws in. The casing of the mic screws into there. You will. But it's putting it in, it's kind of like putting in a DT12 connector. You know, you kind of want to wiggle it a little bit, okay? Make sure, by the way, that you keep your windscreen on that microphone. Those 110 microphones, the element of the microphone is actually right at exposed at the tip of the mic. So, you know, what I typically do is I take a little piece of a double-side stick tape, and I put it around the microphone very carefully, not to cover up any of the ports, because it is a cardioid mic. So you want to not cover those ports, and then slip that windscreen on and make sure. Some people glue it, you know, whatever, but just make sure you keep those, because once you get close to that microphone, if there's not a windscreen, you're going to get a lot of popping. Just below that 110 microphone connector, there are a couple of USB connectors. There's a standard USB and there's also a micro USB. So the standard USB, a lot of things we can do with that. You can, from the front panel menu, you can go ahead and save your configuration to a USB stick or blow it back in from the USB stick. Just make sure it's in the root directory of the stick. Also, if you've downloaded a new version of firmware from our website, which is, we always post new versions and they're all free. With that, you can also go to the menu and update the firmware right from the stick. Again, that piece of firmware needs to be in the root directory. And there are two pieces of firmware. There's a .gz file and a .ccb file. So the .gz is a sort of a zipped file, and that will put onto the main station pieces of firmware so that any device that you plug into it will automatically grab the new firmware. And let me say this is actually a pretty neat feature in Helixnet, and it's especially useful for like rental companies that, or for example, you've got a system, but you just rented from a rental company some extra belt packs or extra remote stations or whatever. And maybe you have not updated your system and their products are of the latest firmware version. When you plug that endpoint into the system, whether it's the network connection or the Powerline modem connection, well, then that device will connect with the master station and they'll talk to each other and say, oh, I see that you're at a different version. So in this particular example, the master station would send to the endpoint belt pack the version that is resident on the master station, which is actually a previous version, and it'll downgrade the belt pack that you plugged in so it plays nicely with your system. And then when it goes back to the rental company, they'll plug it in and it'll upgrade itself back. So it's about a 3 or 4 minute process. And I tell you this because I've heard from a lot of people that they rented something and they plugged it in and needed it right away and they had to wait 3 minutes for it to work. So that's just part of your workflow planning. Make sure.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that too. I was out on a show and I sub-rented a bunch of belt packs to go with Helixnet.
Yeah.
And I actually had a couple of days of load in, but I did get to the point where I started plugging in packs and it was doing software upgrades, and it was a little annoying that they wouldn't work for a while. So always, particularly if it's not all coming from the same rental house, and even if it is, plug in your hardware and check it out in advance.
Right. Because you don't know if they didn't change it when it came back, and it was some guy using version 1. So yeah, that's a good point. It doesn't take very long, but if you're doing a broadcast or a show, 3 minutes is like 17 eternities. Yeah, so just make sure you suss out your system before you deploy it. Just below that USB, standard USB, is a USB micro. We use that to go down kind of a few levels down in the board if the master station ever loses its mind and you want to re-enter the app code to the system. That's how you do it. And there are notes in the handout, the worldwide Clear-Com handout. That's a PDF. I don't know if we have it up there yet, but it certainly is in the folder that you'll get a link to after the show. Okay, then we have a couple of buttons here. There's a menu button, and again, just like in the FreeSpeak system, this is a cascading menu. So if I go here to the menu and I see in my first window, I've got, let's say, the 2-wire module window. So I'd go to, it would show me modules, and then it would show me the 2-wire modules, and it would show me which one, and then I could select something to do with it. It's a cascading menu, and it's pretty useful. Just above that is the headset button. Now, keep in mind, you've got a headset and a gooseneck mic. You can't use them both at the same time, but let's say I have a gooseneck mic plugged in and I have a headset plugged in. I take my headset off, and of course I remember to kill my mic talks because nobody likes to hear the sound of a headset clicking on a desk. And I want to use the gooseneck mic now. When I plug the headset into the headset connector, it will automatically light up and select that headset button. But let's say I now want to go to the gooseneck mic. If I just click that button, now the gooseneck mic is activated. When I want to go back to the headset, I can just click that button, and now the headset will be active. Okay, and the mic on is up top, and every time I hit a talk, that mic on will come on. However, I can leave, let's say, all my talks latched on, but now I want to say something to the person next to me, and I don't want anybody on the comms to hear it. So I can click that button right there, turn my mic off. Even though these are latched, the microphone is not getting into the channel. So use case here, I'm in the middle of the show. I can turn my mic button off. Let's say I'm the director, and I turn my head to the producer and I say, this is the worst crew I've ever seen in my life. And then click the mic back on. Hey, you're doing a great job. I really like you guys. Thanks a lot. So that button is useful for those sorts of things. Maybe you don't have to be quite as sardonic as me, but there you go. That's the use case. Each of these key sets, remember the key set is the OLED, the call, the talk, and the volume. Each of these key sets has, like I mentioned, a call button, a talk button, a volume button, volume knob rather. Now, in the key set, we'll see the name of the channel that's been programmed to that key set, and below it, it will give us some information about what's connected to that. So in this case, we're looking at this. It's showing me that it's these guys are all LT, the talk listen is connected, the talk is connected. Yeah. There will be over here, just below this progress bar that shows me the volume that I've turned the knob up to, would also be things, unfortunately it's not in this picture, but will show me things like a 2-wire module is connected to this channel. A 4-wire module might be connected to this channel. I might see LIM over here. That means that the limiter is turned on. The limiter is for your headsets. Now, when these things come out the door, the limiter is engaged because we don't want anybody claiming that they got deaf because they listened to a Helixnet product. You can turn that limiter off. It's never going to get loud enough to make you deaf, by the way. But you can turn that limiter off and it'll actually allow you to hear a little bit louder. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. So that's your key set there, and you have 4 of them on a master station. In the menu programming or from the software, from the GUI, you can program any of the 12 or 24 if you have them, but let's just stick with 12 now. Any of those 12 channels can be programmed here for you to use, okay? It don't have to be 1, 2, 3, 4. It could be channel 1, channel 5, channel 9, and channel 12, let's say, or whatever you've renamed them to. Out of the box, they come as channel 1 through 12. Those can be changed very easily. Okay, over here on this side, there's an RMK button. RMK stands for Remote Mic Kill. Use case. Somebody's got their belt pack and the talk is latched and we're having a conversation with them, and now my attention goes to a different channel, but that person forgot to unlatch their mic and they're talking with their buddy next to them about the ball game or the latest fashions, and you don't want to hear that. You just come over here and click that button and it will kill the mic of either on every channel of every endpoint or just the ones that you're looking at here. There's an all talk button right above it, and when you push that button, instead of pushing all 4 of the talks in front of you, you can just push that button and we'll select them all. Now in the menu, you can select the all talk function to be not only the ones that are on your screen in front of you, but it could be for every channel. So all 12 channels. So that's a great, everybody saddle up, 30 seconds to air, pucker up, here we go. You push that button and everybody's going to hear what you say. And just above it is a SA, which stands for stage announce. Some people call it voice of God. That is a button. When you push that, it will take whichever microphone is active, the headset mic or the gooseneck mic, and it will shoot out of this XLR connector down. You see where it says SA out on the back plane. Your microphone will now come out of there. So that's very useful. If you want to, you can take that XLR connector, put it into the front of house mixer and talk to the audience. Or you could have, let's say, some audio biscuit box, a Fostex or an Anchor or whatever, little Yamaha box on the stage during rehearsals. Let's say you have a dance troupe and they're practicing and you want to give instructions to them through the speaker. That's your stage announce, and that's the function for that. Off to the right, now we're seeing, of course, there are two knobs here. There's the main volume knob and there's the program volume knob. These are for exactly what they say. That's my master volume for all four of these channels. Each channel has a volume knob. By the way, if I push this knob in, I'll see a little X over that screen, and there we go. I'll see a little X over that screen, and that will show that that channel is muted. So if, let's say, I don't want to talk to the sound channel right now for reasons passing understanding, because the sound channel is the coolest channel, but I want to focus on the stage manager channel. So I can push each of these knobs in and mute those three channels. Instead of turning the volume knobs down, which is you could also do, but if I mute the channels with pushing the button in, then I can unmute them and be back to the exact same mix that I had for all my channels. So it's convenient. Same thing with the main volume knob. If I push it in, this little LED will go dark and it tells me that I am no longer listening to my speaker. Now, I'd still hear it in my headset, but not in my speaker. Same thing for program. The program audio that I plumbed into the program in on the back plane can be heard here. Now, I have to associate that program audio with channels, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. There are also two LEDs here, and they show us the status of the two Powerline modems that are on the system. Okay, that's the front panel. And let me take a peek over here at our questions and see what we got. So Ranjan said, the possibility of connecting another mic, like a wired 58. Well, I'll tell you what, you could do it. There's the 110 microphone is getting phantom power, which the 58 probably would ignore, but it could be done. You just need to get that DIN connector for it. Yeah, it's possible. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but there you go. You could do that. Nathaniel says lots of time because of the distance in the Paris arena. I use a classic intercom with my FreeSpeak 2 LQ Helixnet and do the follow spots and give them a second channel. I bring them the RS702 with an MS702 on the second channel to do the term, I guess termination. Is there another tip to the termination? Oh, to the, I think you mean termination when you say term? Without bringing the MS702, like a booster for the Powerline. Okay. Yeah. So this is another issue that's not in the works right now. We're talking about it, but I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. In your legacy analog party line, if you add more devices than the master station can handle, current-wise, you can add, you can just put in line another power supply. We don't have that available for Helixnet yet. It's definitely on the roadmap. We know about it, and we'd like to have it now, but sadly, no, we don't yet have it now. And that's also, so yeah, is there a booster for the Powerline? Nope, there is not. Okay, Alan knows he's jumping the gun, but does the remote master station have an SA feature too? Yes, it does, but it's a little different. We'll talk about that in a second. So the front of house could pour it out of a mixer. Yeah. So the answer is yes. However, when I push that stage announce on the remote panel, it's not going to go to the XLR connector on the master station. It's going to go to the DB9 that's on the back of the remote panel. So it would be you would have to, if both the master station and the remote station want to talk to the same stage announce destination, you would have to mix the two of them to go in. So hope that was clear for you, Alan. Jean-Luc, Ron, it's Rom, by the way, but as long as the check clears, I don't care. Ron, can you give more explanation on the second LED for Powerline power, please? Yes, I can. And I'll do that in 1 second after I look at Rajan. It's all talk configuration is found in the CCM or on the base station. I believe it's only on the base station. I don't remember if it's in the CCN. Maybe Sook-Fong can look that up while I'm vamping here on the questions. Sook-Fong, is the CCM also, can you configure the all talk button in the CCM also? Brendan asks, can you use the stage announce without killing the audio in the comms channel? So in the legacy party line system, there's a way to do that by clipping the ring on the tip ring sleeve out of the hot mic, but not here. I don't believe that's the case. Okay. Anyway, getting back to the second power line. So if we go here, these two lines, line 1, line 2. Now on the back plane here, you'll see also it says line 1 and line 2. Male and female XLR, male and female XLR. Each of these are separate Powerline modems. So this Powerline is separate from this Powerline. And the health of each is indicated with a very, it's a low resolution indicator, but it tells you, is it working, is it not working? And it shows you here Powerline 1 and Powerline 2. So while we're talking about power lines, let's talk about power lines. A power line on a Helixnet master station can accommodate 10 belt packs, okay? And it can accommodate 10 belt packs within a reasonable distance. If you're gonna take a cable and go a mile, it's maybe not gonna accommodate more than 2 belt packs. But within a reasonable distance, maybe up to 200 or 300 meters at the most on good quality cable, you can accommodate 10 belt packs. So since there are 2 Powerline modems, that's 20 belt packs per master station. If I needed to use the Powerline modem for my belt packs, and that's the only way I was connecting to them, I could link 2 master stations together and then have 40 belt packs that would allow me to play that game. But we're going to talk about that in a moment when we talk about budgets. But I have 2 power lines here, and each one can accommodate 10 belt packs. Now, a remote station or a speaker station, the biscuit box, can also be connected with a power line connection. However, the remote station and the wall station will take about 3 or 4 belt packs worth of that power line budget. So if I put, let's say, 2 wall stations on a power line, I probably can only connect a total of 2 more belt packs on that power line, and then I'm done. The reason I say 3 or 4 is when you turn the speaker on a remote station or speaker station, and you turn that volume up, Now you're drawing more current from the power line, so it's going to drag down the available current on that budget. So there are two budgets we want to talk about. There's the power line modem budget, and there's the data budget. Now, as I said before, I can take 2 or 3 master stations, link them together, and have a total of the ability to have 60 belt packs on there, or maybe 50 belt packs in some other wall stations. Each master station with 2 power lines, each having 10, can accommodate 20 belt packs worth of power line budget. However, on a system, no matter how many of these master stations you have linked together, we have a total of 60, maybe 64. There's a little wiggle room. You probably could add a couple more in worst case scenario on a good network. But you have the total of, let's just say, 60 endpoints can be connected to the system. No matter how many master stations are in that system, only 60. So if, let's say, go back to my scenario where I plugged in 2, let's say, remote stations to a power line, now I only have room for 2 belt packs. However, if I take that wall wart that comes with the remote station and plug the wall wart into an electrical circuit, now that remote station product is no longer drawing current from the power line modem, it's only drawing data. So now I can have 10 belt packs on the, well, 8 belt packs rather, on that, no, 10 belt packs on that system, because on that power line, because I'm no longer using the power line modem budget for that device, only the data budget. Okay, I hope that's clear. Let's take a peek at some more questions here before I get too far into this. Is there a way to get Powerline remotely, like a networkable box, other than the second main station? No, as I said before, Paul, or maybe you weren't here for that. We don't have that yet, but there's some good news that I'm about to talk about when you talk about networking. So that might help us out. And Jason Ng is asking, where can we get the PowerPoint? Pete, online with video 24 hours after the show. Yes. Okay. So that the PowerPoint, I believe that Kelly was posting some of these power lines. I'm sorry, some of these PowerPoints and documents right here in the handouts area. Right now we only have 2, but we may be able to post some more. But if not, you'll certainly be able to get it within 24 hours. Having said that,
there's a zip file posted with the video, which not only includes all the handouts, but will also include all the questions that are being asked and the answers to the questions. We'll make sure this PowerPoint is part of that zip file in the online in our archive area.
Okay.
Yeah, so I put up the doc instead of the PowerPoint just because it's smaller. That's what's in the handouts right now is
Right.
The doc of your stuff. And yes, they look in the if they look in the chat window, you will find the Dropbox link that Pete referred to. We'll also post that on the website.
Yeah, I just want to answer the question
perfect.
about,
by the way, yes.
all talk button is able to configure in CCM.
It is. Okay. So
Yeah.
there you go. That was, I think, Rajan's question. So you can configure the all call button in the software. Okay. Now, that again, by the way, I should say, Jason, that the Clear-Com website has a lot of great resources. You can see some videos on these things. There are downloadable pieces of information, manuals, and of course, there's always the solution finder in the support section that will allow you to ask any question and get like 20 really good answers to that question. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we have those 2 power lines. Also, okay, let's just go back to the beginning here. On the back plane, we have an IEC cable. which allows you to connect to your wall electricity. Now you want to turn the master station off, you got to pull the power because there's no power button here. However, here's a little trick that we should know. If you ever want to reboot the station for whatever reason, if you push in the main volume button and the program volume button while you're pushing in the headset button, so all three of those. If you push in all three of those, it will do a soft reboot of the station instead of having to go reach around in the rack and pull out the power cable. Just to the right of that, we have a DB25, and here is the pinout of that DB25. It's for GPIO relays and such that you can connect. You can associate buttons, any of these buttons, with a relay. Let's say you want to have something that I don't know, kills a mic or launches a missile, turns on an on-air light, whatever. So I would associate it with. It's not necessarily associated by key set, it's associated by the channel that you're using so that any endpoint can actually actuate these relays. Just to the right of that, there's a hot mic out, it's a tip ring sleeve. This is good if you want to take it. What that'll do, by the way, it'll take, as long as that mic on button is on, it'll take the gooseneck mic or headset mic and it will route it out to here. Sometimes operators want to be able, let's say this panel is being used by a director or a stage manager. Sometimes operators want to have a little powered speaker in their room so they can listen all the time to this operator. Or you want to connect maybe an analog IFB system to this. You would use that hot mic out. And of course, as we mentioned before, there's the stage announce out and the program audio in. Off to the right here, we have some slots that are used for interfacing to the master station and to the system itself. So I might have, let's say, a 2-wire slot here, a 4-wire slot here, and an Ethernet slot here. The 2-wire slot, as we'll see here, right there, you see it's got 2 female 3-pin XLRs that I can connect to a Clear-Com or an RTS, either one, system, and it will show me where the voltage is on here. I can associate that in the software, let's say on a Clear-Com 2-wire for an Encore system, you know, the legacy 2-wire, I can associate each of these with a channel. If it's RTS, they use pin 2 and 3 for their, so they have 2-channel duplex 2-wire party line on one XLR. I can associate in the software or from the front panel pin 2 audio or pin 3 audio. And again, we're going to talk about nulling and remote mic kill and all that stuff in just a little bit. I could have a 4-wire, it's the same thing. 2 RJ45s can bring in 2 channels of 4-wire, can bring that from a matrix or from a free speak base or a telephone interface or anything that's line level audio in and out. And the last one I want to populate with would be an Ethernet. It's the ETH-2 something. I forget what the model number is on that. But that allows me to connect my system, not just this, but the entire system, to a network. And that's useful. So A, I can use my software, the GUI, from my computer to control the system, but I can also use it to network connect into a, let's say, a PoE switch that I can use that PoE to power belt packs. In this case, I'm using Powerline, but we can also use, you see, that's the Ethernet. And also we have a fiber. You can use fiber for your Ethernet connection. But I could take a Powerline and power up some of these devices. Certainly the belt pack. Now, the newer belt pack has a 3-pin XLR female here for the Powerline modem connection, or it has an RJ45 connector here. You See that EtherCon connector there, and cleverly written over here. It says LAN, but it's got to be PoE. You need the power to power up the belt pack. So it can't just be a standard network connection. It has to be a powered connection. I think this, I don't know if it was Paul or somebody was asking about, or several people have asked about, the extra power line. Well, with our new belt packs, you don't necessarily have to use the power line to connect. Remember, we could have 60 endpoints of data, so I can connect all these with Cat5, and lots of manufacturers out there make Cat5 cable, and you can put an EtherCon connector on the end, and the Cat5 cable that I'm talking about looks, feels, and wraps very much like regular mic cable. It's not that stiff category cable that we put in the walls. So, think of in a theater environment where you've got tech, where you're teching a show, instead of having to put panels, go grab the panels, take them out of the rack and stick them on those tech desks that they put in the audience. You can just take a couple of PoE switches and give everybody belt packs and, connect them to the PoE switches, and off you go. The belt pack also has a little micro USB connector here. And one thing that's cool about that micro USB connector is it allows you to, first of all, you can upgrade firmware that way. But a really interesting device that you can use is a micro USB to a female standard USB adapter, and put a little LED module in there, and you can turn that into a call flasher. And you can, let's say, take the left key set and make it a solid flash, and the right key set and make it a blinking flash. And it's very useful. It tells the operator right away which button they want to push to respond to that call. Again, we have the 4-pin headset here. It could be a 5-pin, and as Peter mentioned before, if you have that 5-pin connector here, then you can hit this option button, and it will take you to a menu that will allow you to make each key set pannable for anywhere in the panoramic potentiometers field. So I want it hard left, I want it kind of a little bit to the left, I want the other one to be right in the middle. You can set all those up with that option button. And that's available only in the newer belt packs. I don't believe the old belt packs do it, but something we also need to check. All right. The remote station, as we spoke of, well, let me take a quick look at our questions here before I get too far away here. Pete, when plugging in the wall wart for the remote station, which is already on a Powerline, will it switch over? Yep. Nope, and you do not need to. So there's a protocol built into all the devices that can connect with power that has a hierarchy of selection of power source. And the first one is that the wall wart, or the IEC connection, obviously, but it's AC power. If the AC power, let's say you're plugged into a PoE switch and your device is going over PoE powering up, if you plug the wall wart in, it will immediately switch to the electrical connection. So that's, I believe that answers your question, Pete. Edward Gonzalez, is that Gonzalez? Okay, my dyslexia is kicking in here. Are 2-wire and 4-wire ports in an assignment considered an endpoint? Well, yeah, you can consider them an endpoint, but they certainly have nothing to do with the 60 endpoint data budget. An endpoint is really something that's, I think you would call the 2-wire and 4-wire ports beginning points, really, not endpoints. They're an entrance and exit of the device, but for an interface. So I wouldn't call them endpoints, but it's a good question. Matt is asking, Helixnet and LQ are very powerful systems, especially the CCM is a very good design. Well, thank you. The CCM config page is particularly very easy to use, and the LQ plus Helixnet is easier to use in a small system than Readles. Well, okay, I don't want to badmouth anybody, but I appreciate that. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, you know, the LQ and Helixnet, we're going to talk about how they come together in just a little bit. Pete, if I am using the front panel menu to do all my programming, can I use 3 I/O modules rather than the Ethernet module? The answer is correct. However, none of your endpoints will be able to connect with a network connection in that regard. So if you've got a system with, you know, 6 or 7 or 12 belt packs and that's it, or maybe 1 or 2 wall stations additionally, and you play the game of budgeting the Powerline modem correctly, yeah, certainly. You can certainly do. You can certainly do that. You know, we like to be able to use the network. And once we start talking about LQ, you see that you actually have a whole lot of I/O available that you didn't know was available, but that's for a little bit later discussion. Orel, this belt pack with LAN doesn't have a second XLR copy of the Powerline for cascading belt packs. You are correct. So that's right. So we'll take a look at this for a second, just so you see what I'm talking about. And on the belt pack, I have 1 XLR and 1 Ethercon connector. If I wanted to daisy chain from this belt pack to that belt pack, I would use a Y cord, an XLR Y cord. I plug into the Y cord from the Powerline modem. I plug the Y cord into the belt pack, and I take the other end of a Y and I daisy chain it into that other belt pack. I'm not a big fan of daisy chaining, especially for belt packs that are being worn by people who are moving around, because it inevitably turns into an episode of the Three Stooges and it gets ugly. But if you do need to daisy chain, just get a 3-pin XLR Y cord, and you can do it that way, and it works fine. Henry is asking, are there plans to give belt packs the ability for external power? No, there are not. But you know, certainly something we can raise with our product manager people, but at this point in time, sorry, no plans for that. Okay. Okay. Now, on this page of this handout that you have, on this 4-wire port, it shows you the pinout of what the 4-wire port is going to do. Now, there is there's something I'll show you later on how to make an XLR to a 4-wire connector. But we're considering that this is 568B wiring. I think most of you are familiar with that standard. Pin 4 and 5 are the blue pair, and that's audio in to that matrix, not matrix, excuse me. That's audio in to the base station's 4-wire port. So the blue pair would be in. So that blue and white blue would go to pin 2 and 3 respectively of an XLR connector that's adapted to this guy here. And pin 3 and 6, which are the green pair, they are the output of that Helixnet 4-wire module, okay? By the way, the speaker station, it shows 2 key sets, but there's a shift key here, which will allow me to see 2 more. So I have a total of 4. This little window here is actually tiltable, so it you know, helps you if there's some glare. You can move this up, sort of rock it up and down a little bit to be able to get rid of your glare. The program audio button that we had on the master station obviously is now this little tweaker pot that you can turn up. That's your main volume, and you can push that in, and right now it's off. If I push the main volume knob in, that LED would come on, then the speaker would turn on. Again, this works for the speaker. The headset is always active. And of course, call and talk for each, volume for each. If I hit that shift key, it'll take me to the other two channels. Okay, and again, I have a headset and a gooseneck mic for this. This is designed to be able to put in a standard 4-gang box, electrical box, and you can mount it in the wall, or you can get this S mount to put it on. This angle here, if you push this little Clear-Com badge in, it's a little button, it will release a ratchet that will allow you to take this to several different angles or all the way down for storage. All right. This is the older belt pack. You know, there are a lot of these out there. This one does have the daisy chainable male and female XLR pass-through. So, you know, this was, yeah, this was Orel's question. Okay. Jason is asking, is there any digital 4-wire options? So I'm assuming you're talking about AES 67 or Dante. The answer for this product at this time, no, there are not. I don't know if there will be plans for that, but we do not support interfacing with that. Now, having said that, there are devices, lots of them out there, that can unmux channels from a Dante connection or an AES 67 connection, and you could, you know, then put them in as regular analog 4-wire. With this product here, there's a volume recessed wheel for your program audio. There is a 2.4 tip ring sleeve jack here, 2.4 millimeter tip ring sleeve. If you're using those, you know, back when we had wireless phones in houses, they had those Jabra headsets that you could wear. That was designed for that. We don't do that in other products anymore, but it used to be available in the 600 series belt packs, and they sort of used that as a model for this belt pack, so we added it. But the new ones don't have it. The USB connector, that micro connector, is over here on the side, covered by this little rubber piece to keep dust out. The menu button for this belt pack is right there. These are clamshell designs, not easy to open up. Don't really recommend that that's something you do. These buttons here are to release the XLR connection. So you got to push down pretty hard on that button to pull that XLR out. There is one over here. However, this is a male XLR and it doesn't really need it. We can sell you this belt pack with a 5-pin female, in which case that would be a useful button to have. Before I go to that, let's see, I did want to show where to go. Sorry about this. Okay, so the up and down arrow on the front of the new belt packs would be for you to scroll your program audio volume up or down. Again, if program audio is associated with if I plug it, program audio in here, and in the software or the front panel, if I plug in, yeah, I'll get to you in a second, Pete. If I plug in a program audio and I associate it with a panel, or I can associate, not a panel, a channel, I can associate actually with all the channels, and then anybody who has any of those channels will be able to listen to the program audio, but they can have individual control over that program audio with that up and down arrow. Now, I'm gonna stop sharing here so we can see Pete. What Pete is talking about is that's the micro USB connector, and that micro USB connector is being connected to the call signal, and you see it, the light coming on That's a solid light, meaning he's selected a key set that has been told, when you get a call signal, make a solid light. It can also be done to blinking. So what I like to do is I make the left key set solid and I'll make the right key set blink. And it's useful. We do not make a flasher like we used to have, or still have actually with the analog system. The reason being is because all 12 of those channels are put in there, there's no way of knowing, you'd have to build a product that's just as expensive as a belt pack to be able to demux the channels that you want to hear calls from. So why not use the belt pack itself? Now, what Pete was showing is available on wherever you buy your stuff, Amazon or Alibaba, or wherever you get your stuff, you can get products like that. And they're not very expensive, and it's certainly more useful than buying a belt pack's worth of device that will break your bank. Yeah, Pete.
I had was out on a show where somebody plugged in a USB fan into that jack with a USB B turnaround. So every time they got a call, wind would blow in their face.
Well, with the old belt packs, we used to see a lot of guys charging their phone with that USB connector. So you can do it. It's going to draw down current on the power line, but it's doable. All right. Let's see. Any other questions? Anybody want to ask any other questions while because we're about to start talking about the GUI here, and then we're going to get into LQ. Nope. Sook-Fong, you want to talk a little bit about the GUI?
Okay. Do I have control?
Let's get Sook-Fong the ability. I think I stopped my thing. Let's see. Change presenter. Let's see. Yes, Sook-Fong. There you go. You got it.
Okay. Show this. Yes. Okay. So yes. So this is the CCM call configuration manager, as we call it. Right now, I'm connecting to HMS master. This is the main device page. You get the overview. We'll talk about this later. So you could link up to 3 other Helixnet masters, and then another 3 LQ devices. So at the bottom, these are the things that is connected right now. And then here, we are in general page. You could save your projects. Here, you could change your password on the CCM. Okay, license. This Helixnet, by default, from version 3 onwards, I think we have 12 channels from version 3 onwards. We're now running version 4. Is 12 channels by default. If you have a license key, you could upgrade to 24 channels. Having said that, if you have one Helixnet master with 24 channels, linking to another Helixnet master with just 12 channels, you get 12 channels. You won't get 24 on both. Okay. So if you need 24 channels, all your Helixnet master link has to be 24 channels. Here's where we select the file for upgrade. Okay, these are the 2 files that Ron was talking about. Okay, I'm not going to upgrade. I'm just showing you. Okay, here you could reset to default, reboot software, reboot the system, take a snapshot and send to us. Sometimes we can see some useful information when we send to the engineering for troubleshooting. Okay, this is synchronized clock to get the logs correct. Okay. Before I forget, if you can see this section here on the not sure, can you see the mouse moving?
Yes, we can.
Anyway, on the top left corner, you could see the HMS. If you have additional link, you could go to the next device. And this is the IP address of the Helixnet. Then you get 3 modules. The first modules that I have is Ethernet. The second I have is 2-wire and 4-wire. So you could see the 3 slots here. LM means I'm the link master. I'll explain that later. Okay, so here, the network section. Basically, you only get, like what Ron has said, you only get the CCM when you have the network card in there. Otherwise, you just do it from the front. You could select DHCP or static IP, and here, right now, I just make myself a link master, and I make other device that link to me link member. I'll look at that later. This is the ports that's available, the hardware port that's available on the Helixnet, because it's the interface slots that we put in. Okay, this is the default name. You could change it to anything that makes sense to you. So as usual, the 2-wire, you get auto nulling. And then on the 4-wire, okay, you get gain in and out of box. Okay, let's go to row. On the row section, you get to see all the different types of row that is available for Helixnet. The Asian IC is because I added an LQ. We'll talk about it later after Rom covers about LQ. So here, main station, this is the default row. This is something that was created. Okay, bell pack. Every device you get a default row. Okay, HRM means Helixnet remote station. HKB is our King biscuits, as if you heard the story from Rom. Okay, so to add any row, you have to come here to add. So you have to select the kind of device that you want to add rows on. Okay, if I want to add another master, call it test. Okay, close. So this is my new row that I created for the master station. And then we could select any channels that we want on the master station. Okay, you could unassign, and then if you only need 2 channels on the master station, you can leave it as just 2 channels. Okay, so this is just an example, and you can select whether the key is latching or non-latching, or if you don't want them to talk, you can disable the talk key. Okay, this is the station settings here. What type of microphones? Remote mic kill, all keys. Just now someone was asking the question. So the way it's done, configured is here. Whether it's visible channel only. Visible channels means the one that you have set on your station, or all channels. Okay. Again, remote might kill visible only or all channels. Okay. Screensaver. This is something that you just leave your key scrolling, which is good for saving OLEDs live. Okay, headset, side tone adjustment, steps of 6 dB. Microphone. So this is the microphone on your master station. Okay, program input. You could assign it to any channels that you want to. Okay, stage announcement. The default is non-latching because I think we don't really want to latch the stage announcement. Okay. Hot mic is just the microphone output at the back of the master station. Loudspeaker, These are just the GPIOs. So the options are only showing whatever that's available on the master station. So of course, when you come to belt pack, you get different sets of selection. So you only get 2 keys on the belt pack. Okay, when you are on HRM, you get 4 keys. When you're on HKB, you get 4 keys as well. So two keys on first page and 2 keys on second page. Okay, let's take a look at assignment. Okay, so here, this is the overall assignment page. If you go into just showing single channel, you could select the channel that you are using. Okay, let's say on ENG cam, I got no 2 or 4 wire that's attached to it. Okay. But on ENG sound, I have a 2 wire port and a 4 wire port that's attached to it. Okay, here is showing local config. What does it mean? Here, it's just a row. If the device has not selected a row, you could configure the device locally. If the device is having a row that is set by the CCM, I mean on the master station, then you could dictate what kind of key it is. So here is just on local config. If you want to know what are the device that is on local config, you could click host name. HKB is on local config. The master station is also on local config. Okay. So here, if you click all channels, you could see everyone. If you put them on host name, okay. If let's look at here. If HKB is talking into the channel, you could see a red key that's coming up. Otherwise, all the time. Okay. So the green color means listening. The red means it's talking to that channel. Okay. So accounts here is actually by the LQ. So we'll talk about that later. Okay. That's all for the CCM. Okay. Anything to add from
Well,
anyone?
we might want to just chat a little bit about what some of those functions that you went through on, for example, side tone. I'm not sure that everybody knows what side tone is. Side tone is the amount of audio that you hear in your ear cup of your headset. That so when you're talking, it tells you that yes, I am actually hearing that because other people are hearing that. So it's actually for your own protection. If I hear my voice when I'm speaking in my ear cup, I know that other people are hearing me. If I don't hear my voice, it's a good indication that people are not hearing me. So when I hear my voice, obviously if I'm in the middle of a show, I want to keep things show appropriate. So it's just like, like a musician would use a monitor to be able to hear what they're doing. It's useful. Also, speaker dim. Speaker dim is a function for when you have a speaker station, not for belt pack, but for something that has a speaker on it. When I'm using my gooseneck mic and I talk, it will dim the speaker by the amount shown there. I think it's 6 dB if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I'll call 0 dB. Interesting. Okay, but I can make it dim.
Yeah.
I can make it dim. I can select a different number. So when I push the button to talk, if I'm using my gooseneck mic and I have my speaker on, when I push that button to talk, it will dim the speaker a little bit, so it helps with feedback abatement. If there are any questions that anybody has while we're running through a lot of this stuff, just make sure you post it in the questions and we'll get to it.
Yeah, so if you have a call in the shift party line from Aurea, sorry if I mispronounce your name. does the HKB swap automatically? It does. I think, hello? It does. The HKB would flip over to the channel that is in the background. Okay. Are there plans to add RJ45 to the base? Good questions. So you don't have to have HLI 4W2 port. Well, the RJ45 for Ethernet is HLIET2, so it's not 4W2. So plans to add, I don't think so, but we'll put up a feedback on that. But right now, no, I don't think there's any plan.
No, there isn't on this HelixNet system. You know, without going into a lot of detail, but I can tell you that there are plans in the future, and it'll be a little bit, but there are plans to redo this whole system. And once that happens, then yes, the answer to that question will be eventually yes. But for the foreseeable future, no. You're going to need an Ethernet module for this. The good news is once we start talking about LQ, you can use LQ to add more I/O. But again, obviously, that's an additional expense. But yeah, it's a good question, and we're working on it.
Okay. So can SA out be assigned to a channel on HelixNet? Could we? Let me take a look.
I believe it can.
SA out. I don't see the option here though. Hang on. No, I don't. I mean here
If you go
for
to
the SA button.
assignments, you might be able to do it. Not accounts, assignments.
Sorry.
Nope, you can't. You cannot. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
No, in FreeSpeak, I'm thinking of FreeSpeak. You can do it in FreeSpeak, but you can't do it in HelixNet.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Rom, do you need to add anything else on the CCM?
No, I think, you know, it's most of the stuff is pretty self-explanatory. Anything that you see that's blue that looks like a hyperlink is changeable. Either changing a name or there'll be a drop-down menu. Just show a drop-down menu so you see how the drop-down menu works. Just show a drop-down, latching, non-latching. Yeah. I think you have to hit the arrows.
Huh? Here.
Yeah, show the drop-down.
Yeah, I did. Hang on. Let me do another drop down. This is a bigger drop down.
Yeah.
Gain.
Yeah, you need
So
the
you can
arrows.
select.
Isn't there an arrow? Okay, and let's see who's asking that. I'll see it in a second. Is asking if you can disable local config. Well, you can. Yeah, you can select away from it. Yeah, you can select a role from the software or from the endpoint itself. But it's Adam, as far as disabling it completely, that I don't believe is an option. Okay, can I have a master station with a 2-wire port and an Ethernet port, front of house, with a RAD-COM through the 2-wire port and another master station at video with a 2-wire and for the CCUs and an Ethernet, and have true Cat5 network from one to the other? How can I set this up? And can I set up a show? I'm assuming that is, I can have different assignments in the 2-wire module. Can I have a master station with 2-wire ports and an Ethernet port at front of house using a RAD-COM? I'm assuming you're connecting the RAD with the 2-wire. And another master station in the video world with a 2-wire for CCUs and Ethernet, and I have a Cat5 connection. How can I set this up? Yeah, so first of all, if you link two master stations together, which you can do through a network connection, or you can do with fiber link if you don't really even need the Ethernet, or you're connecting fiber to a switch. Once those two are connected, any module on any of the master stations are available to the system. So when you link two master stations together, one of them becomes the master, and the 12 channels on that master Helixnet master station are the 12 channels for the system. The member, so you have a master and a member. The master's 12 channels are for the system. The member's 12 channels are now ignored. However, any modules in that member master station, I can assign to the master station channels. So let's say I have master station A, master station B. Master station A is the master, B is the member, but I have a module in the member. I can assign that module on the system to the master station's channels. So I'm assuming, Andres, that answers your question. And Jason is asking, is there direct integration to Eclipse Matrix, or is 4-wire the only option? 4-wire is the only option. Yeah.
You could, if you have an IP card on the Matrix, you could actually get in via LQ.
LQ, yeah, that's true. Once we talk about LQ, that'll make a little bit more sense. So if I have a matrix and I have an IVC32 card or an IPA card, I can connect to an LQ that's connected to the master station Helixnet. And yes, in that case, you certainly can, but you need the LQ in between them. Okay. And then Rajan is asking, how can GPIO be used configured? Okay, very good question. So remember, there was that DB9 on the back of the master station. I can, in the menu, maybe Sook-Fong, you want to show them in the GUI how that's configured?
Yeah, on the master station GUI. So if you want to configure a relay, you could say, if I press a top key or a core key, that will trigger, or SA key, if you want to trigger a stage announcement. So you could put them onto any of the relay. Okay. So let's say if we put into SA key, and when I trigger SA key, that will trigger relay 1. Okay. And then
Okay, and in the
GPO.
handout, there's a pinout of what that DB25 pins do. Yeah.
Oh, pinout. Okay. Let me see. Does it jump? Okay. So let me go back to the GUI. So at the side of the GUI, if you press the question mark, and then there's a PDF that will pop out. Okay, on the PDF, if you're online, if your computer is online, then yeah, GPIO. Yeah. No.
While you're looking through that, I'm going to talk about some other questions. Yeah. Oh, there
is
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's on page 244 of the manual, section 19.9.5. Yeah. Yeah. Here's your guide. And that's the pinout for that DB25, and it's also in the handout that's available online there on the handouts area. A couple other questions here. Maximum devices that can be used using network port for connection is their maximum amount, period, no matter where they're connected to, is 60 devices. Now there's some wiggle room. You could have probably 65 devices and it'll be okay, maybe even more. But as a rule of thumb, we say 60 endpoints can be connected to a system. And again, that's no matter how many master stations you have. SA out on a remote station can be assigned to a channel though. Okay, didn't realize that's a possibility. Do you see that in the GUI, Sook-Fong?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. Thank you, Rajan. We learned something new. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Steve. Yep, there you go. There you go. Let's see. Stephen is asking on the LQ 2-wire 2 port, is there any option to delay the audio? No, there's not. If possible, how up to many seconds? Yeah, no, there is no delay available at this time. GPIO can be triggered only from the base station,
No,
the base station or the remote station.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure not on build packs.
No, Beltpack does not have it. In the FreeSpeak system, you can actually do it from a Beltpack, but not in the Helixnet. Sorry about that. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about LQ now, since we started to talk about LQ. And just give me 1 second here and get this organized. Okay, that person wants to do this. I want to show my screen, and let's show the screen. But let me find out what I want to show here. Here we go. All right, LQ. All right, so in LQ, slideshow, set up slideshow. I want to manually, okay. I don't know.
The second option. Go back to slideshow.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, that one. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm a moron when it comes to these things. Okay. And show that. All right. Anyway, let's just go with this. Okay, so this is the throwdown box. We call it a throwdown box. It's a half rack. It's only 2 ports. If I push this middle button here, it's going to wake up the OLED display. It shows that a power supply is being used. I could connect this with a PoE switch if I wanted to, but it's always best to use the power when you can. It shows me the IP address, and if I push and hold this, it brings me to a menu, and I can scroll back and forth or up and down in the menu and select things. To sign in, at this point in time, we still have the scheme where the credentials for signing in are admin and admin, all small letters. The state of California, where Clear-Com is located, has mandated as of January 1st that all new firmware versions of browser-based GUIs need to have a unique to that device password coming out of the box. You can always change the password back to admin, but here coming forward, not what is out there today, but in the future, in the very near future, when we do some more releases, you'll have to go into this menu and find out what that unique ID is, and it's the MDNS address of the product. So, but for now, admin will work for you. Okay, and we're going to talk. This is going to show us a little about the GUI. I don't want to quite talk about that yet. I do want to show you the products if they're here. I thought I had the. I guess I don't have the right PowerPoint. Nope, I guess I don't. Okay, well, so I'll just walk through this here a second. So this product, another way I can look at it is here, and just please bear with me. I don't like it when I'm not prepared, but there you go. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay, so LQ products come in this 2-port throwdown form factor. This particular one here, the LQ2W2, which we were talking about, and there was the LQ2W4, 4W2 rather, dyslexia. So the 2-wire one has 3-pin XLRs to connect to 2-wire devices. The 4-wire box has RJ45s to connect to those boxes. And so that will be, again, it's the same sort of pinout as we were talking before, and all that information is in your handouts. We also, this was the initial box we had, this little throwdown box. Then we came out with the 1RU, it's the LQR for rack mountable. And this comes in a variety of possibilities. Okay, so we're looking at this one here. You can see it's got 8 ports. It's A through H, which is 8, and they're in pairs here. 8 ports of 4-wire connectivity, and it also has 2 LAN connections. These are pass-throughs, so I could connect to my network here and then come out of here and go into my PC. You don't want to put 2 connections from a switch into that. That'll give you a network storm. It also has redundant power supplies, so they're 12-volt power supplies, and these come with the box, and that's how you power this. The throwdown box, you can power it with the 12-volt, or you can power it with a PoE connection. Only the right-hand one will connect the PoE. If you plug a PoE into here, it won't power it. Okay, so you want to connect it to the one that says LAN/PoE. We do make a box that has 4 2-wire ports and 4 4-wire ports. And I'm not showing it in this picture, but we also make an LQ box that has DB9s over here for their ports. And we use that when we're connecting radios, so that not only do we have the 4-wire of the audio in and out, but we also have a relay closure that will key a radio. So you could, in your system, set this up so that when you're on your Helixnet base station, you push the talk and the call buttons at the same time, and the call button will send a control to this DB9 that will close the relay for your radio. Yeah, Pete.
Are the DB9s wired the same as FOR?
They are. They are.
Thanks.
Yep, they are. So there's 4-wire, there's 2 pins for audio in, 2 pins for audio out, and there's a normally open, normally closed, there's a wiper, and there's a ground. Okay. So in the LQ product, we can have 6 of these LQ devices in one ring. You can't add more, okay? One is designated as a master, and all the others are designated as members. So the members in the GUI, when we go over that, Sook-Fong will show you that, the members all are looking for, we're going through this little, I guess it's a UDP tunnel, maybe TCP, since it's a connection. They're all looking for the IP address of the master LQ box. Now, what we were seeing before in the GUI that Sook-Fong was showing is we made the Helixnet master station the master for the LQ ring. So LQ, by the way, uses a codec called Opus, which is a scalable codec that allows you to change the network qualities of the data stream. Now, you can slow it down with a lot of latency, but make it very, very high quality audio. I mean, like, production quality audio, but there's going to be more latency there. Or you can speed it up for something that's just comms or an IFB, because you want it to get to the endpoint quickly and you don't really care so much about the audio quality. If it's for IFB, you know, it's just going into an earpiece, but you want it to happen fast. So, however, when you make the Helixnet the master station for an LQ ring, the whole system is going to then change to a 722 codec, which is not as agile. So the Opus, when LQ is just used by itself, that Opus codec gives you scalability, and it's discrete scalability in each direction. So that will be useful. For example, the golf channel uses those little throwdown boxes, the 4-wire throwdown boxes, for mics and IFBs at T-boxes, network connected. However, once I stick that into Helixnet, I'm not going to get that scalability anymore. All right, so that's the form factor. And we're talking about the different port settings that we have here, and my 2-wire or my 4-wire or my, well, when it's designated G, that's the DB9 connection, okay? So these are the menu options that we see in there. All right, let's take a look at our questions here and see. Again, there's no delay, unfortunately, for audio. GPIO can be triggered only from the base station, and that's correct for the Helixnet. Is there any upgrade LQ link group that can connect to more than 5? No, there is not. So I don't know what the plans are in the future, but I can tell you right now that that will not be the case for the foreseeable future. So sadly, that's what we have going. Now, one thing that's kind of important to know is that if I keep my Helixnet and my my LQ devices on my VLAN, then there's really no issue. However, some people use LQ, and we had a question before about using LQ connecting to a matrix, and they want it to be on the public internet. Now, that Opus codec is capable of traveling over the public internet. The Helixnet codec is not. So I could have my LQ devices on a public internet, but I would have to have an external static IP address, as we see here. I would use this external port, 1007, and I would want to open up 1007 to TCP/80 and port 1008 to TCP/UDP 655. And once that's there on the public internet, if I attached Agent IC to that, if I had an Agent IC clients on my Helix on my LQ box, then once it's on the public internet, it's available LTE through your 3G and 4G. So anywhere your phone connects for your phone calls, your Agent IC will be able to connect. And this is the way you do it. Okay. Now, I think it's time for, well, one other thing I want to show you that's kind of interesting is, you know, one of the things we do with our products in 2-wire is we make them available to either the Clear-Com products or the other guys. So this is an RTS 325 box. It could be a Clear-Com belt pack, but I wanted to show you this because sometimes in the real world, you have to connect an RTS 2-wire device to a Clear-Com system. And this is how we do it. Let me show you how that works. I'm coming out of a 4-wire port. This happens to be a matrix, but I'm coming out of a 4-wire port. It could be from a Helixnet. It could be from a FreeSpeak, any 4-wire port. It could be from anybody's 4-wire port. And I'm going into my LQ box. Okay, I network connect through my network here, and then I've configured these two, again, all these ports come in pairs. I've configured these two to be RTS compatible. And so I can then assign power to this box and termination to this box and plug my 325 belt pack right into it. And you know, we're going to show you the GUI in a minute, but I'm just really quickly, I'll show you some highlight points here. I want to go to the devices. I'm looking at them, and I want to type in my address, of course, of the box that I'm playing with here, so I can talk to it. Obviously, my computer is on the same subnet as the box. I go to my home button. I look over here. This is what I'm doing, and that's the one. Yep, okay. I'm going to then come over here to the ports button. And again, Sook-Fong is going to walk through all this in a second. I'm just giving you a quick overview. I'm going to select the port. I'm going to say they're RTS compatible, not Clear-Com compatible. I'm going to enable power and termination. And then once I've got that, I can assign that to, in the assignments, I can, which she'll show you in a second, I can assign that to another LQ box that's at the other end of my network. Before we go there, let's just look at this question here. How do you manage the different latency between LAN, WAN, and internet, changing the buffer size? Okay, well, that's all done. I think Sook-Fong is going to show you that in a second here. Let me stop this and give you the GUI, Sook-Fong. There you go.
Okay. Give me a sec. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the correct. Show this. Okay. So this is LQ, just LQ system by itself, not connecting to Helixnet. So this is the link master of LQ. We have a 2-wire master. Okay, and then we have a 4-wire G2 that is linked to it. Okay, so basically on the overview, you get to see what device you have added into the whole LQ system. So you get to see six slots here. So at the moment, 3 of them are configured. 1 of them is offline. This is how you see when it's gray out, it's offline. Okay. When you decided that you don't want it anymore, you can delete it away. So right now we have 2 devices. Let's just go to link master. Okay, here it tells you the firmware version and the license that is available. LQ is also doing SIP phones. So here, again, you get your reset to default, reboots, and synchronized clock. For LQ, you do not get to save a snapshot. So you can't save and, hang on. You do have a saving that is on device. Sorry, my bad. Okay, let's look at device and let's look at the 2-wire port. Okay, oh, sorry, because I'm actually linked to the member. That's why I can't see the support. So if I want to see the support on the link master, I have to key in the IP address of the link master. So right now, because I'm on the link IP address of the link member, that's why I don't see the support page. Sorry. So here is the same thing, very similar to HMS. You select the file. Because I was on HMS, that's why it's still here. So how do we click it away? Escape. Okay. So license. Okay. So here on the tab, you select what kind of network is on, static or DHCP. Right now, our link master is in the office. I'm working from home this evening, so I'm connected to the internet and it's linking back to the master station in the office. Okay, here I select myself as a link member. Okay, you could be a master or member. And then over internet, I select our master station's IP address. Okay, so here on the port, this is what I see on the local port where I have two 4-wire G2 port. Okay, the way we call it G2, the way we name it G2 is because there's two GPIO ports. Okay, on the GPIO port, you could select whether it's Vox enable so that you can trigger your two-way radios. Okay. Under rows, this is very much only if you have agent IC connected. So otherwise, there's no row section here. So right now, every row there'll be a default, and then we added some rows in here. Okay. Here is the way I'm on agent IC 6. Okay, you could change the name there on the top. And the channel, this is because I clone it from the default. That's why it's the same. You could add any more channels. I think maximum is 12. No, okay, we could add more keys. How many keys can we add? 24 keys. Okay. So you could change the name of the channels, reassign, sorry. So on the agent IC, which we're going to show you in a bit, you have left key, right key, and then on the shift page, secondary left key, right key. Okay. Assignment. Okay, this is where, okay, let's go to account first before we go to assignment. So here, agent IC, I have more than 8 here. It's because the one in the office has 8 licenses as well. So including the one that I linked, we have 16. Okay. So you could add up to, you can add more, but if you try to connect more than 16 user, it won't allow you to. Okay. So we didn't set any password here. We didn't have any SIP server connected. Here is where we connect to our metrics. Somebody was asking, I think Jason was asking about whether we connect to metrics besides 4-wire. This is where we select our IBC card, sorry. Okay, we won't go into that because that's a different topic on EHX. Okay, assignment. Here we have the ports, virtual port and physical port. Here IP is the virtual port that I set for the metrics back in the office. And here is the physical port. This is the LQ that's missing, so it's offline. Okay. So when we set direct line, I have a IPA coming to one of the port. So someone was asking, okay, let's do 2 physical port rather than, let's go to a second link. Let's take out IPA and add in this to this. Okay, someone was asking the buffer size of the connection. So it's here, whether you want to go to low or you want to go to custom. So you could change the bit rate here. Okay. Packet size, jitter, how much jitter you want to give to your system. Okay. Let's go back to the default, which is on high. Okay. So this is, okay. So this is on the port over there, and then this is the other port that is local here. Okay, this is the way we set it. if you have an actual device, you could hear the difference. When the bandwidth is lower, there's a bit more latency and the audio quality isn't as good. Okay. My LQ, some questions from Bob Konova. My LQ hardware is in 2 different cities, connected on a private network, static IP. I have no problem configuring remotely. Can I do software upgrade remotely? Yeah, you could. I could upgrade the one in the office if I want to. As long as you get to the CCM, you can upgrade, because the CCM is actually leaving, the software is actually on the device itself. So when we are doing web browser, we are actually going into the device itself. Okay. Rose, there was something that Rom wanted me to do. Was it about the custom port? Anything else that I'm supposed to show? Rom? Are we still?
I forgot.
Okay, sorry. I only remember about that. Maybe we were talking about linking, but okay. So this is the way it's linking from LQ to LQ. Now let's look at Helixnet to LQ. So we talk about from Helixnet to LQ. Helixnet has to be the master, okay? And when we have LQ, LQ is a member. So on my network here, I have a HMS and LQ. Okay, so on it's the same way that we link LQ to LQ, except Rom said the codec is different. LQ to LQ is open. When LQ is linked to Helixnet, is on a different codec. So here I'm a member. I link to my master. Okay, and here audio ports on the LQ. Okay, this is right now not assigned to anywhere, but from here assignment, I could select let's say CAMS channel. I would like to add the LQ port to out to a recorder, say for example. So I could just push the port into here. So if I'm on EMG cam, I could just push another port into there. Okay. So now I use up both ports on different channels. That's the way it is. Again here, because I have Asian IC license, I could add more, but I didn't get Wi-Fi set up on my local system here, so I can't show you. But if you do, it's the same way as how you get on the LQ to LQ, and then you could just add a channel that talks to Helixnet master. Okay. Rom, are you going to talk about Asian IC before we?
No, we can go right into it. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let me see.
I would say this, you know, everybody should go to wherever you get your apps and go ahead and do a search for Agent IC. There it is. And once you open it up, it's going to look like that. And then you push that button right there, and it's, whoops, there we go. And it's going to, this is the demo mode now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, yep, and I'm going to swipe across the listen on the, get down there, the listen on the production. Let me do it here. I'm going to swipe across and it latches, whoops, right there. And now I'm going to talk, and I'm talking to Pete right now. Pete, do you hear me?
And this is Pete talking back on Agent IC from the moon.
Yeah, and I hear you. So you can use the demo to talk back and forth amongst yourselves. But you know, you don't know when some
Hello,
guy
hello.
in Serbia is talking to doing. You don't know when a guy from Serbia is doing a demo. So you know, there you go. It's actually pretty low latency. So I'm speaking now, and you hear it coming out of Pete. I'm in California, Pete's in New York, and it's pretty quick.
Yeah, I just flew back from the moon, so I'm talking to you now from New York.
One thing about these Agent IC clients is they're kind of battery hogs. They take a little bit more battery source than you. There you go, buddy. But if you're not using it, you know, go ahead and turn it off. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting a call signal. Now, Agent IC, when you're connecting over LQ with Agent IC, you can get 8 channels or 12 channels, is it? 12 channels. And you can have all kinds of cool stuff here. The demo that Pete and I were just using is the EHX product, so that can connect to an IPA card or a IVC32 card, and we'll probably have a Matrix webinar at some point. But it can do anything that a panel that connects to the Matrix does. So I could have IFBs, I could have listen onlys, I could have controls. It's a pretty cool little device. The app is free. You'll get the demo, but if you want it to connect to your system, as Sook-Fong was just showing you, you have to buy licenses to connect. So there you go. Okay.
Matt, there's a question from Matt. He wants to know more about Agent IC.
Okay,
What
well,
more? So I don't know, on the app, I think there's a bit of reflection, but I tried my best. You could set control keys, call buttons. Okay, what else? So you could flip to the second page. There. Control the volume. Sorry, can't do really do it.
Unshare your screen so your picture is bigger. Unshare your screen.
I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Let me try that. Oh,
Just
can you
click on
take
the
my
little button with the square.
yeah, the stop button. There you go. Oh, look at us.
Okay, so here, so the volume shows of each channel at the side. Okay, so if you flip the key, you could bring it louder or softer.
You flip the key by hitting the 3 little circles there, and it flips it back and forth. So you can get volume control, you can have a call signal, you can have a remote mic kill on that too.
So if you, so that is really loud. Okay.
Yeah. So Agent IC is an awesome product. There are a lot of television stations right now that are actually using it for their operators who are working from home to be able to work from their computers and contribute to the broadcast. Look, you know, what we've done today in this session has been kind of an overview. We've rushed through a lot of stuff. I know you got a lot of questions. And you can continue to ask questions. We have another couple of minutes. I know we're running a little late, but we could go.
Oh, we got plenty of time. I actually had a question for you. That's why I clicked on.
Okay, baby, what's up?
Well, you may have covered this, but if I'm using LQ and I'm like bringing in a bunch of 4-wire camera ports there, right? But I also have Agent IC. What are the limitations of the box if I want to use all my ports and I want to do Agent IC? Is there a limit? How does that work
that's
out?
a good question. So they're separate. So you can license onto an LQ box 8 Agent IC clients, and up to 8. You could have 1, you could have 2, you could have 8. You could also buy a package that gives you in a package 8 SIP clients if you want to do SIP. So that's for office phones and stuff. But each box can only support 8 of each. Now, if I had 2 boxes, now I could have 16 clients. It has nothing to do with the ports on the back of the LQ box.
So you can use the 8 ports on the
inside,
back. You can
Yeah.
use the 8 ports in the back and the 8
That's
LQ,
correct.
but
That's
not
correct.
8 LQ and 8 SIP.
That's right. No,
And can
you
you
can have
do,
eight. You can have 8 LQ, 8 SIP, and you can have 8 hard ports on the back if you have the 1RU box, LQR.
okay,
Yeah. But if I wanted 16 or 32, it just comes in blocks of 8.
Right. So I
Up
keep doing
to,
that. Okay.
yeah, up to the 6 boxes.
And now the routing internally then is all, I have access for all those seats, if you will, right? So
Right.
I have my 8 wired, and then just to reiterate, we have the 8 wired, and then we have the 8 agent IC and 8 SIP clients. Then it's not an either or of the SIP or
You're
the
correct.
agent IC, it's both.
Yeah.
And I love
Yeah.
that word and.
Yeah.
And is the coolest word.
Absolutely. Now, what a lot of facilities do is, let's say they've got 8 agent IC clients available, but they've got, a bunch of freelancers who come in and out, maybe some staff. Everybody has the app on their phone, but what they'll do is let's say if they have 8 clients, they'll make let's say they take 2 clients and they assign them to the engineer in charge and the technical director, let's just say, for example, and they give them a username and a password that only they know. And then the remaining 6, they will call them user 1, user 2, user 3, like that. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and that's the screen where you can log in. Okay. And it shows you the username, the password, which blanks out in this case, and the server. In this case, it's an EHX server. We do have an LQ profile on this too, by the way, which is this
So
EHX.
that was the one we would choose if we
Yeah.
were using LQs, obviously.
You would choose that one. Now, what they do is, let's say they've got those 6 users, 1 through 6, are working the show. And then they get off and the next shift comes in. Well, each of those who have now logged off, those 6 are now available to 6 more people who come in. Okay. The clients are hard coded to the LQ box and they stay on that LQ box. As we were talking about earlier, you can't move them to another LQ box. Again, there will be a scheme in the future to change that, but it's not here it'll be a while till that happens. Okay?
I saw this question from Stan Dickerson.
Mm-hmm.
You may have, again, I apologize if you covered this, but his question was, is an agent IC client each a single endpoint? And I guess perhaps is that like a point-to-point that I can do, or any limitations?
Okay. No limitations. It's a single endpoint in the virtual world, but it has nothing to do with the endpoint data that we're talking about in Helixnet. Now, in the LQ version of the Agent IC product, you get the 12 channels, and they're like, think of them like party lines. If you have a matrix and you have a IVC32 card or an EIPA card, and you have mobile clients attached to them, those clients, because they're talking to a matrix, can connect to anything in the matrix. I can have a point-to-point to a panel. I can have a control that will launch a missile, whatever you want. A use case here, and this is only in the matrix-based one, but a lot of television stations will give them to their talent and their shooters. The talent will use it as an IFB, but when they're not on the air, they can have a point-to-point to the producer's panel or a point-to-point to the news desk panel. It's very, very versatile. In the world of LQ Agent IC, just like we were talking about earlier in Helixnet, since you don't have real point-to-points, some of those channels can be designed as private party lines. Okay, we have some other questions coming in. Let's see, how does an Agent IC have to be configured to talk and listen to channel assigns in the Helixnet? Okay. Well, we'll cover that in 1 second because let's see. Sook-Fong, you're going to go ahead and show your GUI and show how this works. So the question was, how does the Agent IC have to be configured for talks and listens? You can also configure them to listen only. That's what you give the producer because you don't want to hear them whining. Okay.
Okay.
Yep, and or you can configure them so that we have these page flippers. You remember by hitting those 3-dot buttons, you can move anything around on either of those pages in the software, and Sook-Fong's going to show you. And while she's setting that up, some cellular that was Rajan's question. Brendan is asking, some cellular networks seem to have difficulty connecting to Agent IC. The VPN seems to fix this. That's true. Is there another option if the user doesn't have a VPN? So a couple of things about that. First of all, you know, you can change your connection. Make sure your connection is set for an Ethernet connection, not a LAN connection. You could use Agent IC over your Wi-Fi network, but once you've opened up those ports 80 and port 655 to the public internet external address, now it's available to any cell phone on LTE. However, I will say this, that the Apple operating system on the Apple mobile devices changes a lot, and sometimes our engineers don't get to making another upgrade right away. So sometimes you'll notice that the Apple products have some problems connecting. They get this, it almost sounds like bitrate issues where you sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks. That's just one of the many challenges that manufacturers have with the people making mobile devices that change their firmware often and don't let us know that it's happening or give us an advanced copy. So that's that. So anyway, Sook-Fong, do you want to show about the talk and listen and how to do assignments here of the actual buttons?
Okay, so on Agent IC, you have to, on LQ to linking to Helixnet, you have to add a row, add a virtual port. So give it a name for that virtual port, and then any user ID, password, and the default row you could select from whatever you set on the row section. So here I selected Agent IC1. Okay. So under the row section, if I go to Agent IC1, okay, here you select what channels you want on the key. Okay, there's 6 keys by default. You could add more keys here. Okay, I have a 7 key, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so here, so let's go back to sound. So this is how we select the primary key, left and right. Okay, so remember we were talking about Helixnet having the left key and right key. So on the left key and right key, let me try to get back into here. Okay, so this is the one connected to the office, not here, but anyway, we could see that. Can you see the screen? I don't know. Are you still seeing my cameras?
Yes, we are. And if you want
Okay.
to, you know, you could unshare the screen and, you know, have it go larger if you want to.
Okay, I remember that. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so here, this is where, this is the left key and that's the right key. Okay, so this is how you set it up. Okay, so this has a different setting from the one I have here, but anyway, this is how it was set. Okay, let me go back. So secondary is when we flip the page. Okay, when we flip it to page 2, this is the secondary key, left and right. I hope that answers your questions. Bluetooth headset be used with
This
Agent
is
IC.
Pete. This is Pete. I'm sorry, I didn't quite get
Yeah.
that. Could you show us again on the screen what is your left key and right key?
Yeah, you may want to show your camera too, so that, and hold it up so you can see physically what you're talking about.
Okay, maybe let me get back into this, the one that's in the office. Maybe that's a clearer. Agent IC number 6. Okay. So let's say this is agent IC number 6, the one that I'm actually logged into. So under the under the rules, sorry, agent IC 6. Okay.
The thing is this, primary key 1, and do you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, primary key 1 left is that left key, and we were seeing it as the listen. And primary key right would be the right key. Secondary key left and right are when you push those on the screen, when you push the 3 little tiny circles there, and it flips it to the secondary key. That's your secondary key left and right. Does that make sense, Pete?
And well, yeah, on mine, I don't have, I guess I don't have a secondary key because it shows me the volume control when I click on the 3 buttons.
Right, because nothing's been programmed there. You can leave it blank. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. So by default it's on talk and call, and the listen key is on page 2. Okay. Then the secondary right is not set. If we set something, now we can't set anything on it. Anyway, there's 3 keys. So if I stop this, then that's on the channel 1. Oh, it's grown up. Okay, channel 1. Okay, so this is the call button, this is the talk. And if I flip to page 2, this is the talk key that's always latched. Yeah.
And no, if I have more buttons than than show on the screen, and I have a listen on ones that are not shown, do I still hear those?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you do. But you should be able to scroll. You just sort of scroll down like you're scrolling,
Right.
and you'll see more keys.
Yeah, and yeah, someone was asking how many keys can we have on agent IC. I think the maximum we could have on Matrix is 23 or 26, I can't remember. But it also depends on your device. So if
Right.
you have it on iPhone or Samsung Tab or a mobile device, it's lesser key because your display can't do so much. If you have it on a big tab or iPad, you get more keys.
Right. I mean, you can put this on your smartwatch if you wanted to. You could put it
Oh
on.
yeah, I've not tried it.
Yeah, no, yeah, you can.
Android, yeah.
You can put it on a little iTouch. You know, anything that can connect to either a network or a 3G, 4G, you can put it on. But
Okay, so
obviously,
someone
the
was
smaller the screen, the fewer labels you're going to be able to see.
Ranjan is asking, can Bluetooth headset be used
Oh,
with
there it
agent
is.
IC?
Yep. I'm sorry. Yeah, you
Hi.
see that? Yeah. Oh, it went to sleep.
Okay, yes, you can use Bluetooth headsets. Be careful, just I think there might be, I don't know, there might be very slight latency,
Yeah,
and
it's going to add more latency. Bluetooth is actually pretty latent. So yeah,
then
yeah.
just be careful of the quality of different Bluetooth headsets. Okay, can I download the config so that is import? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
For LQ? No,
Yeah.
LQ you can't.
Oh, you can?
LQ?
I thought there was one in LQ.
On Helixnet, not on LQ. Hang on.
Okay,
I don't
well,
think so.
there you go.
On the watch app, where do you set the keys? On still in the software? I'm sorry. Where do you set the channel, the server and the port?
Oh,
You know what I mean?
I don't know. I've never actually worked one. I've seen them, but I never actually worked one.
I
In
think the
settings?
watch
In the watch app?
follows your phone, doesn't it?
Yeah, in the watch part of your phone.
It is,
I
but
don't
I
know.
don't see it reacting to my phone. I don't see it reacting to, oh wait, turn the mic on. Turn the speaker on. But I have no way of choosing, because if it's following my phone, I have no way of choosing a channel.
I don't think so. I think you could reply, but I'm not sure. We could find that out.
Rom, call me on production.
Watch channel.
No, I don't see no reaction on the phone. We'll have to play with that more.
Selection. Okay.
Wait a minute, I'm just loading. I had turned it off. Okay, here we go. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You got me?
It's coming on the phone, but I see nothing
Not
on
there?
my watch.
Okay,
Nothing
and
on my watch.
if I send a call signal, do you see the call signal on your watch? No?
No, nothing.
Okay, well, so be it.
This technology always gets in the way of real work.
God damn it.
You'd be a superhero if your watch keep talking your watch.
I don't know, Debbie. Sorry.
Okay. So questions, can we download config not on LQ, on Helixnet and FreeSpeak, yes, not on LQ.
Any other questions? Okay. Yeah, we'll wait a second to see if anybody wants to ask any questions.
Did we miss any question?
I think Rom just wants to use his cricket sound effects. You can never take the audio mixer out of Rom.
Well, we're waiting, so this is waiting music.
It is. It's brilliant.
I don't want to get into any copyright trouble here.
There you go.
Helixnet config store the agent IC and LQ assignments also? Ooh, no, I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
No.
Let's do an experiment right away.
Yeah,
If I
really.
pull
Let's
my,
check it out. You stumped the band, John.
if I pull my LQ away, so if I unplug my
Well,
LQ,
since your LQ is on the agent IC, Helixnet doesn't store
yeah,
the LQ settings.
yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It shouldn't, I think. Yeah. So if
Oh, I should be
stop
touching the
doing-
face, should I? Oh, well.
It's hard. It's a hard habit to break, Rom.
It's impossible.
Rom, go wash your hands now.
It's like I'm going to start that now.
Uh,
No, I don't think so. Because as soon as you take the LQ away, the Helixnet won't have any agent IC by itself.
Yeah, that's too bad. All right, well,
Yeah.
learn another
Opportunities.
something new. Yep.
Opportunities for new features.
Opportunities. Exactly.
You bet.
Well,
We,
within the next couple of years, I'm sure everything will finally come, all the things we want.
The roles, I think the roles can still be there, but you have to assign it back to any agent IC that you recreate.
Yeah.
I have a question which I'm sure you know the answer to, but probably can't give me an answer. When you redo the Helixnet base, which you said is coming down the pipe somewhere, will the network be the same network as LQ and be use a codec that can be on the public internet?
No.
It'll still be separate.
Yeah. So the Helixnet codec, as well, you know, if we did that, then it would obsolete all the Helixnet systems that are out there, and we won't do that.
Or maybe it's selectable.
That would be nice. Yeah, that would be nice.
I have several shows that are in several different sites at the same time, and it requires a lot of 4-wire interconnect at each site to get into the local Helixnet systems.
Yep. So Kari Iverson, you know Kari.
Very well.
That's where you put that one.
It's all his fault.
It's not his fault. It's physics.
It's all his opportunity.
It's all his opportunity.
Exactly.
There you go,
Exactly.
Tony.
Got
Yeah.
it. Got it.
Absolutely.
Fair
I,
enough.
I think, that's one of that's really interesting with Agent IC. And obviously the questions Pete's taking up here, we're seeing transport across the public internet in ways that, I mean, it was dreamed about, it was thought about. I just don't think we ever expected to see so many exponential graphs across so much of our life, right? I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, yeah,
literally
yeah.
everything we're doing right now is measured in exponential terms,
Yeah.
or at least in orders of magnitude. And it's an interesting. We have Mac joining us.
There we
Mac
go.
went to work this morning.
Mac has the beard equivalent of helmet head right now.
Yeah, I've been wearing a face mask all day.
Yeah, he sent us a couple pictures this morning from work.
I just turned on my camera and saw how hilarious I look.
You got to go
Well,
to the
there
beauty
you
parlor.
go. You're always hilarious. One of these days I'll get your last name correct. I come from the Chicago Midwest and I can't help it. I'm really excited about where this product's taking us. A lot of people, we've had a little, we had a discussion going amongst our group because a lot of the emails we're getting in, it's like, hey, I'm looking at this Clear-Com training, or I'm looking at so-and-so's training or whatever. We're not the factory. We are so happy to have the connection with the factory, and we have with you folks and so many others. So thanks for coming on, because a lot of companies, it's kind of scary when you bring your training platform over to our group. Our goal and ambition in life is to break software and to break hardware. That's what we do.
That's part
right?
of our job too. Yeah.
And we love that. Thank you for your transparency on that. I hope everybody that's watching understands that when we do this, it's not about trying to find the shortcomings of a product, but rather to try and come up with every possible application that folks out in the field are going to come across. And like
Right.
I said, these are all opportunities. What we're going through right now, folks, while as devastating as it is in many ways, I received some news today, that just really very sobering. And you look at it and you go, for all the bad, the great that can come out of these challenges we're all facing worldwide. And when I use the word opportunity, in a corporate world, that's speak for a lot of different things. But I will tell you what it speak for me. Opportunity is exactly that, opportunity.
Yeah.
It's about saying, hey, how do I better myself? How do I better myself both individually? How do I better myself professionally? And let's take a look at ourselves at, today, go through and say, hey, how can I make the world a little better? Whether it's on social media, whether it's, and let's get rid of this social distancing thing. It's physical distancing, and it's as much socialization as I can possibly handle in the course of a day. There you go. Pete's got the physical distancing, but man, I'll tell you, let's embrace it. Let's communicate in ways that we never have across countries we normally don't get a chance to talk to. So that's my big speech for the day. I'm going to shut up now. Let's be pumped. Let's have a great one. And thanks again, Ram. Thanks again, Sook, for staying up late and being a part of all this. And we're going to look forward to the next time around. So long.